Welcome everyone to the Middle School Building Committee meeting. It's Monday, January 11th. Welcome to everyone, panelists and everyone else. I just wanted to note that this meeting is being recorded by NCM. So we have a number of things on our agenda today. Let me get right to it. First item we have is minutes of our December 1st meeting. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
What's that?
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. Shall we take a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you.
And you get who seconded that?
Dave Thompson did.
Okay.
Okay. The next topic, again, thank you, everyone. Next topic is the preliminary design program status update. Let me turn it over to, is it Compass? We'll be doing that?
I think AI3 is going to walk us through.
Yes.
Justin, you have a presentation to share, correct?
Okay.
Yes, I'm pulling up my screen right now. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening. So the three items that we're going to be reviewing tonight are items 3, 4, and 5 on the building committee agenda. So it's the PDP report update, the site analysis and selection, as well as the community forum #1 overview, which is going to be happening later on this week. So a quick update on the PDP report and the process of that. This slide is similar to the one that you saw a month ago with some few updates. If you recall, the items in red are the critical path methods that we discussed. And then all of the other items are the MSBA requirements for the PDP report. Anything that's listed in light gray with the checkbox at the end has been completed or will be completed tonight after this meeting and is currently being formatted to go into the report. So as you can see, we're making good headway on this, and there's a lot of moving parts, but it's starting to come together. In the end, this report's going to be 1,200, 1,300 pages, so we're moving along at a good speed with good progress. So if anyone has any comments or questions, I'll pause here regarding the PDP report. Okay, moving on. The next item, number 4 on the agenda, the site evaluation and grading criteria. So as discussed at the meeting in December, the design team and the working group pulled together a list of grading criteria for the site selection process. Also taking the information from the previous meeting with all the potential sites in town, you can see them listed across the bottom. There were 10 sites that were evaluated. So what we did as the design team and the working group is come up with a list of 28 grading criteria items. We then reviewed each of the sites and marked whether it complied to that criteria or not. Some of the grading criteria you can see on the left. The first and foremost is the physical size of the site. It needed to be large enough for a building, parking and circulation, athletic fields, and outdoor learning areas required to support a modern middle school. So first and foremost, if the site isn't large enough, it just physically, if it physically won't fit, it's a no on the site selection. Additional items for the 28 sort of grading criteria: location within the town, the access roads if they're large enough to handle all of the traffic, green space, and relationship to the elementary schools. Also, site ownership. Does a town own the land? We want to avoid purchasing land, as that would be additional cost to the town and the project. And then more technical aspects of the site regarding zoning, topography, soils, wetlands, and etc. So what you'll see across the bottom are the 10 sites that were studied: the existing Coakley, Hennessy Field, Forbes Hill, Savage Center, all of the elementary schools, and then Winsmith Mills. All of the elementary schools in Winsmith Mills are not applicable. They do not meet that the prerequisite of the site being physically large enough to fit a modern middle school on. So with that, the site selection was whittled down to 4 sites, Coakley, Hennessy, Forbes, and Savage. And then the overall matrix was filled out and reviewed for those 28 grading criteria. The existing Coakley site received a 97% yes, so it's basically an A+ score. Hennessy Field had 59%, Forbes Hill also 59%, and then the Savage Center had a ranking of 72. So you can see here, this was in your meeting packet as well as in a large version, so you could actually read all of this. Don't expect you to read all this tonight, but this was what was pulled together and how everything sort of flushed out regarding grading and the overall ranking. So as you can see again, the existing Coakley site received a 97% yes rating for all of the established criteria. So with that, I will open this site selection portion up for questions. Ultimately, what we're going to be looking for tonight is the actual preferred site, so the design team can move forward with the sort of the development and the continuation of the process. And to do so, we need to know which site we should be proceeding with. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Alan, to sort of run through your items on this. I think you're muted, Alan.
All right. Thank you, Justin. Very thorough. You've used, a number of criteria. I think the appropriate criteria, and the sites are ranked accordingly. So with that, do I have any questions from the committee?
Yeah,
Question.
Paul Ricciotti.
Paul, yes.
Yeah, when we look at the Oldham, did we include the existing Oldham? Because Tom Maloney and I were having a conversation, and if there was a potential way to include the Oldham as a 5th grade building in this complex, is the site still not big enough for a modern junior high school, middle school?
Yep, and so we did look at that. We looked at all the middle schools, and the numbers that were identified on the matrix, essentially the buildable area, the 3 acres, the 2 acres, the 4 acres, and so on, were if we kept the elementary schools as is, because understanding that there was existing schools. We also looked, so that's what made it into the matrix. We also looked at the overall site. If the elementary schools were removed from the site and it didn't change the matrix at all, the site was still too small, even if we removed the existing middle school or elementary school, sorry.
Okay.
Alan?
Yep. Tom?
Tom Maloney here. Justin, thank you. And I think you've probably, I was going to ask the same question, but I think you've answered it to our satisfaction. But just to nail it down, when we're looking at something like the Oldham, we have the school building itself, the school and the school property proper, and then we have adjacent athletic fields too.
Yep.
Just want to confirm that if you were to use the existing structure as the 5th grade, you probably would not need to build as big a school for grades 6 through 8 on the remaining parcel. Just want to make sure we kind of, went into all those sort of variables.
Yes, we did. We did look at all the variables. Obviously, the new middle school, if Oldham was used as the 5th grade, the new middle school would be shrinking a little bit, but still not significantly. We also looked at floodplains, which affected a couple schools as well.
I'm sorry, say that again. I didn't hear you, Justin.
Floodplains, some of them were near, so that sort of nixed a lot of buildable area. But we did look at the whole site in multiple versions and ways of trying to figure out if we could get a middle school on there, whether it be saving part of the elementary school or if we just removed an elementary school and put the new project there. And they're all too small, essentially, is what it comes down to.
Okay. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Further questions? Justin, as I understand it, in the analysis that you did, you were just looking at the size of the site. You weren't looking at the configuration of a building on the site, whether it's a vertical building, whether it's a horizontal building. Just simply that you have enough land area on the site to be able to construct, an appropriately sized middle school.
That's correct, yeah. We didn't look into configurations as far as stacking grades, how many grades. It was more so just a rough idea of, okay, what do you need for square footage for the building? What do you need for square footage for parking spots, for vehicular circulation, for pedestrian circulation, and then for any sort of minimal athletic fields. So that's where the number came from, essentially, to sort of analyze all of these sites. So yeah, all of that info was included, but not necessarily a building organization, sort of more
Right.
just a massing study.
Right. Okay. Good. Thank you.
Alan,
Yeah.
Paul Ricciotti again.
Paul.
When we looked at the Coakley, are we looking at out back? Is that what you looked at, Justin?
Yeah, so what we looked at for Coakley is we looked at the area where the existing middle school is, as well as the area behind it, not all of the area behind it. So not all of the sports fields. Basically, there's sort of that practice field behind it with that sort of path, ring road between the two fields. We basically went up to that path to determine whether it would fit or not. We left the ball field furthest behind it, the baseball field, and then sort of the soccer, football, the larger field as well back there, untouched for our study at this point.
But just to clarify, I think that we would look at multiple options on the Coakley, including an option out front.
Yes.
In front of the school.
Yeah, this is just a massing study to figure out if it will fit. If Coakley is selected as the site, we will obviously analyze the best location for the building without sort of interrupting fields, shifting them around, whether they go in front, whether they go in back. But that's sort of further on down the road from now.
Justin, this is
Okay, thank
so basically that will be the next step. If once we decided on one or multiple sites, that you would then look at how do you best fit the new middle school onto that site.
Exactly. Right now, this study was just to determine if it would fit and the site would be able to support the new middle school. The next step would be to start laying out the site of how everything started to work. Correct.
Okay. Any further questions?
Kathy Carney here. My question is on number 9 of the matrix. It talks about if existing structures on the site need to be demolished, would the cost be reimbursed? And it said for the Coakley, yes. Do structures include the lights that are in the fields and the fields themselves? If we have to do something with the fields and dig them up or anything, are we reimbursed for any of those costs to relocate them somewhere else?
The cost is typically reimbursed for the building. If we relocate any of those site lights, that additional work would be part of the site package for the new project.
Okay, so if we had put conduit underneath the fields or anything, drainage or anything, is that still considered reimbursable? I think it's just the term structure is what, was that only the building or does that include some of these other things?
Structure is only the building.
Okay, thank you.
And any sort of retrofit, renovation, improvement for the final site would be rolled into the site cost for the project.
Okay, and that would, I assume, in line with Kathy's questions, that includes, underground utilities and anything else.
Right.
Good, okay.
Yeah, Alan, that all goes into your site package number, and that's obviously controlled by a cap within the MSBA, so any site demo or rework is included in that number.
Okay, good. All right. Again, any other questions from the committee?
Just one more thing, Alan.
Sure.
It's probably way premature, Justin, but one of the things that going back over 7 or 8 years in this town was the idea that we might in time replace the tennis courts with an ice rink, if you know where those tennis courts are at the edge of the parking lot. I mean, is that something that ought to come into this conversation as you move forward? I suppose you need to hear from us on that rather than the other way around. Isn't that true?
Yes, I think for where the project is right at this time, that wouldn't affect the site selection in the buildable area.
Okay.
But that is a conversation that we can have down the road as far as how serious the town is about that whole development.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anything further? Any further questions from anyone on the committee or otherwise? Hearing none. Justin, as I understand it, so you can continue with your schedule. You'd like to have a decision by us tonight on the site selection. That correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Pleasure of the committee?
Move to go along with the existing site and select the Coakley site.
I'll second that.
Who is that who seconded?
Dave Catania.
David,
Thank you. Motion made by Mr. Mizuko, seconded by Mr. Catania to approve the recommendation and use the Coakley as the preferred site.
on the motion?
On the motion, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think Mr. Ricciardi is with me here. I'm satisfied that the question about using existing elementary school sites has been answered satisfactorily. So I would like to hear what our two members of the school committee have to say on the motion, but otherwise I'm prepared to vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Should I take a roll call? As well. Start with Mr. Mizuko,
Aye.
Mr. Lane,
Aye.
Mr. Maloney,
Aye.
Ms. Connie,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh.
Aye.
Did I ask Paul Ricciardi?
Aye.
Dave Thompson,
Aye.
Dave Catania,
Aye.
Teresa Stewart,
Aye.
Margot Frazek,
Aye.
Diane Ferreira.
Aye as well.
Thank you. And Selectman votes yes. So I guess it's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay. So now you can proceed under that assumption and do whatever else it is you have to do with that site. So thank you, everyone. Next topic is the agenda for a public forum on the 14th, and I just again want to emphasize to people, we are having our first community forum on the 14th. It's going to be very exciting, I think. We're going to have quite a bit of information out there and looking to solicit some comments and concerns with people, particularly, the public. So with that, AI3, could you continue with the presentation?
Sure thing. So I believe in the meeting packet that went out last week was the draft presentation for the forum. We won't go over all the slides, but the thought was to go over the sort of the agenda and the outline, just to give everyone an idea of the talking points that we'll sort of cover. And then we can go over any questions or specific items if you want after. So basically, we're going to start out with what happened 3 to 4 years ago with the master plan. AI3 completed the Norwood master plan for all the elementary schools and Coakley, and what the results were and all the findings for studying the existing schools. And then we're going to transition from how do we go from 3 or 4 years ago to today. So it's going through the MSBA process, identifying all of their timelines and their milestone deadlines and what is required for each of those. So it's going to start with selecting the project teams, starting these committees like this committee right now, the building committee, and then rolling into the OPM and the architect selection. And then we're going to go through all of the phases of the project, more in depth at the phase that we're in now, the PSR or the PDP and the PSR, and then more of a high level, just a couple milestone dates for the remainder of the project, just to give them an idea of what is to come. Site selection is going to be reviewed a little bit like tonight, but a little bit at more of a higher level, noting that we looked at multiple sites, and ultimately, as determined tonight, the existing Coakley was the preferred site. Also going to review one of the MSBA guidelines or requirements is the required options. So at this point in the project, we don't know yet whether it's going to be an ad reno or a new construction. We have to carry multiple options forward. So we're just going to quickly review the options that we have to carry forward. And one thing to note here that we're going to make clear is that at this point in time, we do not know the grade level configuration. It could be a 6 through 8 or it could be a 5 through 8. We do not know. So we're carrying both options forward for each of these schemes. So we'll talk about that for a little bit. Then we will go to talk about the educational planning component of the phase that we're in, including the visioning sessions that occurred. We wrapped up our second one last Thursday. Very good turnout, good results, very happy with it. And we're compiling all that information and data now. So we'll sort of give an overview of what the visioning sessions are for, the purpose of them, and a little bit of the outcome of what came from these meetings. We'll talk about the ed plan and how that's critical to this whole process. And then we will sort of wrap up with the grade level configuration discussion, with the anticipation that this is going to be the item where there's going to be the most questions and discussion. So we'll talk about the grade level configuration and more so just present facts and figures, basically occupancies of all of the schools now, what other districts are doing as far as 6 through 8, 5 through 8, and just sort of lay out the facts and then sort of get some feedback. One thing that we're hoping to do is the community engagement portion of the slide, and it's actually live polling. So we're going to show a slide where people can go to a website, punch in a code, a 7-digit code, and actually vote on their concerns. And we have 4 questions that we had targeted, and it's basically fears of having a 5th grader part of the 6, 7, 8 model, and advantages of having a 5th grader part of the 6, 7, 8 model. So we're trying to get pros and cons and trying to figure out what people's biggest fears are as well as their biggest advantages. So it'll be a live poll. People can log in and they can vote. And so we can sort of, the design team, the committees, everybody can have an idea as far as where the community stands, and then ultimately open it up to discussion. One thing that we're going to emphasize throughout this whole process is that this is the first of many forums. There's another one that is in March, and then another one and another one and another throughout the process for the next 2 or 3 years throughout the whole project. But this is the first of many, and we'll continue to update, also noting the website and the email throughout this as well. So that's the intent, and to essentially, after the live polling, open it up for discussion, see what the community members have to say, and their concerns. So can talk about that if there's any questions or comments, or talk about anything in specific if anybody wants to.
As I understand it, Justin, at a minimum, we'll be carrying 5 options to the next phase, which is repair the existing building, add reno, both for 5 to 8 and 6 to 8, and then a new building for both 5 to 8 and 6 to 8.
Yes, that is correct. Yep,
Okay.
5 options.
Okay. Any questions, comments?
Are all 5 options covered by MSBA funding or supported by MSBA funding?
As far as reimbursement for the built project?
Yeah, like if you
Yeah,
just,
so-
if you,
Yep. So right now, we're sort of in the information gathering stage. The MSBA is open to a 5 through 8 model and is letting the district sort of explore that and see if it makes sense or not. So they want us to carry it forward just to make sure that we're leaving all doors open for the district to ultimately make their decision in May, June of this year for whichever grade configuration they prefer. So it's part of that whole process and the whole packet. But ultimately, we will need a decision like we had discussed previously. But yeah, it is included at this point in the report.
Okay. Okay, so that meeting, community forum is this Thursday, 7 o'clock. Like this particular meeting, you have to register, to be in that meeting, but, I'm certainly looking forward to it. I'd like to get comments and questions from people, see really, how the public feels, and then we can proceed accordingly. So I think this is, certainly a good thing, and it's always good to get the public involved early, get what their concerns are. Any further questions or comments on the public forum?
Alan, I'll just add, we advertised this. This went home through the school department, I believe, with all the students last Friday. So all the parents and guardians of students in the district should have received an invitation. We also publicized this through Norwood Cable Media, so that's running on some of those channels, and I believe we got into the record as well on Friday. So I know we were up close to 50, if not more, people were already registered. So those are attendees. So that's pretty good turnout. We've actually seen on other projects that this forum through the Zoom type meeting actually tends to have a little bit bigger audiences than some of the traditional live ones. So it should be good.
Good. Yeah, I think it's also, the flyers on social media. So I think we'll certainly get a number of people. Everybody should know that one is taking place, and I'm looking forward to hearing what we get. Good. Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Dave.
if I could just add to that, Brian, just so you know, it also was put out on our social media feeds, both Facebook and Twitter. And I just sent it home this afternoon as an email to the entire district as well. And
Great.
I think it's important that people out there realize they need to RSVP and register for the forum ahead of time. So it's probably better if you do that a couple days ahead of time. So thank you.
Great.
Alan, it's Kathy. I don't see anything posted on the town's website, so I'm wondering if the flyer can be sent to me so that we can also post it on our calendar and put it in the town news area in case people are just not associated with the public schools, but they're just residents of the town, so we can make sure that all of the public knows.
I had sent a copy to Joe Collins. He was going to put it, I know, on the town's social media.
Yeah, it's not showing up yet on the town's webpage. I'll check with Joe tomorrow and
Okay.
find out if he's when he's going to put it on.
Okay, because I know Mary Lou has, I believe, has put put it on, but okay.
Kathy, I'll forward it to you right now.
Okay, thank you.
All right, good. Next topic is approval of invoices. Should I turn that over to Chin?
All should have received the vendor invoice package that came out with all the other documents. They had a list and summary of the two invoices, one for Compass and one for AI3. And not too much in that at this point, relatively thin, but it had AI3's contract entered into the budget, so you should have seen that update. Chin, are you able to share that?
Give me a second. I'm just trying to get to the. Okay. Can you see it now?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So trying to make it bigger so it's easier for people to read. So this month we have only two invoices, Compass and AI3, and then these are the amount, and the individual invoices are in your package, and then the so this is the AI3 one. And at the moment that this is in your package, but I think it just give you a sense of what is in the package every month. That this 1.5 million was the allotted amount for the project, and then they are broken down into these 4 different categories of OPM, architecture and engineering, environmental and site and other. And right now that the contracted amount is in, which is the committed one, committed number in the column I, and these are the contracted amount. The 3,718 was the part of the printing of the designer selection process, the cost that we incur due to COVID situation. And then the spent column is includes this month's invoices. And so the uncommitted amount is the $228,483 right now. So this will be on your monthly, every month we will have that in there. And then as we move forward, that so these are the major contract. And then once we have the reimbursement that all was MSBA, that would also be put into this package so that you have all these information in front of you every month. So we're right now for today we're seeking for the approval of to pay the 2 invoices totaling $64,886.25.
Okay. Thank you. Questions, comments?
It's Kathy again. So on these amounts that are committed, these are the ones that contracts have been signed. Alan, I don't recall if we had issued requisitions on these yet.
I don't know. I can't recall.
The contract for AI3 has been was just signed a couple of days ago.
Yep.
And I have not seen a requisition, so we would need to follow through with the requisition a PO, and then just so tonight is the approval, and then we still have paperwork to do. Yes.
Okay. All right. So the one for AI3, then we'll cut the requisition for the full amount of the money. Is the environmental and site, is that also going to AI3?
For the contracted amount, yes, you will see an invoice that come from AI3 with their sub-consultants for those categories.
Okay, but we're paying directly to AI3 for
Correct.
the sub-consultants, and they're turning around and paying them.
Correct. We will. The town only cuts one check to AI or make one payment to AI3.
Okay.
All right. Good.
But Alan, I believe Dave Catania had a question, had a hand up.
Dave?
I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm so used to school committee saying a motion to approve things, but there are more in-depth questions with this that I'm not equipped to ask. So I'll wait until all questions are asked before I make any motions.
Okay. Further questions? Comments? Pleasure of the committee? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll do it, Alan.
Motion by Mr. Catania.
Second.
Motion to approve, please.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Maloney. Let me also do a roll call. Let's see. I think Tony has just stepped away for a second. Tom Maloney,
Aye.
Matt Lane,
Aye.
Kathy Connie,
Aye.
Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh.
Aye.
Paul Riccardi,
Aye.
Dave Catania,
Aye.
Teresa Stewart,
Aye.
Dave Thompson,
Aye.
Margot Frazick,
Aye.
Diane Ferreira.
Aye.
Chairman votes aye. Did I forget anyone? Leave anyone out? Yeah, did that by memory. Not bad. Okay, good. So invoices have been approved. Any further business? Any questions, comments, anything? With that, no further comments or questions. I'd take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. I don't think we need a roll call. All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you.